deal with our mental health, much like maybe our physical health.
Be a bit more present and mindful.
The possibilities are endless, right? When it comes to kind of product ideas.
Welcome to the Product House. So we are very excited today. Because it's a little bit milestone for the Product House, we have our first special guest, another Product House, joining us today. So we won't actually reveal who it is yet because we wanted to start setting the scene a little bit around why we want to talk about this topic. So as the product managers and the founders, we're often seen as a glue that hold everything together, balancing competing priorities, driving outcomes, and caring deeply about our teams. But while we're very busy supporting others, it's very easy to lose sight of our own well-being. So we're expected to be resilient, to lead with empathy, and to do more with less. And that can be both inspiring and exhausting. So in today's episode, we are actually trying to create a space to talk about something that often gets left behind, our own well-being and mental health.
Just a disclaimer, we're discussing mental health in this episode of Product Pals, and it's not intended to be medical advice. We're sharing our personal experiences to create a safe and open space for others to talk and feel heard. If you feel like you're struggling or need support, please consider speaking to someone you trust and reaching out to a qualified mental health professional. So we're talking about mental health today and its relevance to product managers because the role inherently, we believe, is structurally stressful. It's a higher responsibility role with limited control. There's ambiguity, uncertainty, imposter syndrome, kind of, it's all there, right? So that's why we're really quite passionate about the topic.
Ah, nice. Now, let me review a little bit about our very special product house joining us today. Please join us to welcome Wei-Lian Lee to the podcast. So Will is actually a long-time friend of mine. So we actually first met over 10 years ago. I think it's at the accounting events, even though, to be honest, I think neither of us really remember anything about it. And I don't think any of us really stay in the accounting as a professional either. So I think we'll move into the property fund management space. So over the years, we have caught up a few times and actually doing the pretty recent chat as well. And this is a very unexpected topic just came up about the mental health. We'll share that this is something that you were actually passionate about, this subject, and interesting to discuss it and a bit more. So I realized how important this conversation it is and how little I really know about it. So that's why I actually invite Will to join the conversation today. So
Yeah, thank you very much, Charlotte, for that introduction. Yeah, we've known each other for a long time. Still figuring out how we met.
Yeah. Probably it's going to be mysteries for the rest of our life.
And, the one thing that I learned from Charlotte is she's got great taste in food because every time we meet, we're always meeting at a place I've never been to or, never eaten before. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm really honoured to be here. And that was a great introduction about sort of what I do. From a professional world, I work in a real estate funds management. But yeah, I just wanted to say personally, I'm probably much like you guys. I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm a productivity nerd. I'm actually part of a sort of broader community called Building a Second Brain, which you might have heard of. It's run by Tiago Forte.
Yes, I read the book. Okay,
Yeah.
Are you part of the Australia version?
It's US based, but I guess it's global, but it's based in the US, and anyone from the world can be part of it, and I've been part of it since I think 2023. So yeah, I'm all into the systems, maybe like you guys.
I really need a probably private consultancy around that.
Maybe.
Because at the moment I'm setting up my own note-taking process and it hasn't been working yet. So maybe that's a 100% follow our conversation.
Yeah, it could be another topic on this podcast, but yeah.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about mental health, why mental health is a important, I guess, topic to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like he was saying in the introduction, we're relatively busy people. I guess we're all, young professionals, knowledge workers, and we're trying to deal with the day-to-days. We've got emails coming through, directions from our boss, calendar invites, we've got things flying at us, and we're constantly mentally challenged. Not physically challenged per se, but mentally challenged. And sometimes, going through these things day to day can be really challenging mentally. And not only that, we're probably, whether we're, fathers, mothers, wives, husbands, we're sons and daughters, we have other roles in life. And that's pretty challenging too, trying to balance it all. So, I think it's an important topic. And I'd love to hear your views about how we sort of deal with our mental health, much like maybe our physical health, whether we go to the gym to look after ourselves, or we go for walks. How do we, I guess, look after ourselves mentally? Yeah.
Really love Will's points around kind of treating mental health like we treat kind of physical health, right? And
yeah,
it's ironic that, personally speaking, when I'm really stressed at work, I'm like, the last thing I want to do is exercise, right? And logically that that's probably the best thing you could do, but you just don't have the energy to do it, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you got to pick up the kids, and I think it's underrated, unappreciated, and two, being able to up your knowledge around it and spot your own kind of signs.
All right. Really hold that thought, because this is actually really important questions I actually have for you guys afterwards. It's about how do you actually be able to realize that, and also I'm writing down a few kind of tips mentioned. I think it's about actual physical health. How do we make sure stop yourself and do a little bit more exercise, and then maybe we'll also have a think about what will be the other, I guess, important. Is that coping mechanism? I don't know if it's the right word. Essentially, like what do we do when we actually feel stressed? That's another question I wanted to go there. But before we go there, I actually have a few stats I actually wanted to share with you guys. So these are 3 facts when I was doing research around the mental health, and they come up. So fact number 1 is in 2023, there are about 11% of men aged 18 to 20 experience a major depressive episode. So that means more than 1 in 10 young men are facing significant depression during a key period of growth. So it's getting younger. So that's for younger young men. And then the fact number 2, this is a research from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, National Study of Mental Health, of Wellbeing. So this is for 2020 to 2022. So that's before COVID. It's found that anxiety disorder affect over 3.3 million Australians annually. So that means 1 in 5 Australian men will experience anxiety at some point in their lives.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
It's pretty alarming.
So I have
numbers.
a bit more hopeful kind of notes in the research, like as a fact 3 to share. This is a very recent data. This is a recent data from 2025. Actually shows that 95% of the men now prioritize their mental health, and the men's self-care industry has grown into a $90 billion market simply because so many people start open to talking about it. So this really signals both a growing awareness and the willingness in investment in the well-being by the men. So I know where overall this topic is about, general well-being, but I found some statistics specific for the mental health side. Interesting, like for two men on the call. Does it surprise you? What do you guys feel?
Yeah, the stats are, I feel, quite alarming. It's quite prevalent. It's actually not a rare thing. Men go through a lot of things in life, and it's challenging, and so in many respects, it's alarming. But then it's also, I can sort of relate to it as a guy, as a man. Life is challenging. The flip side is that the stats sort of show that men are trying to get help, I guess, or seeking help, and there's products out there to provide that platform to help individuals like us, which is great, isn't it?
So this is actually not a probably scientific truth yet, because I think in the podcast episode I showed to you guys, I think that globally the number of men and female have mental health issues is kind of 50-50. However, I am still going to ask, but perceptionally it seems like it is a bit more challenges for men in certain way. So I'm going to just ask the question, why do you think, as I guess as men, this is a particular important topic? What do you think is the biggest challenges area in the men mental health?
At that moment when kind of Will shared his thought, I was like, yeah, it really isn't surprising. And I think there's a lot of credit, particularly here in Australia, going to kind of public health awareness around mental health, right? Like programs like Beyond Blue and so forth in recent years that have changed it. And perhaps maybe it's not as prevalent overseas, or that kind of level of awareness isn't as big. So, you know, all credit to the kind of the media here in Australia, right? But I originally, when we kind of came up with this idea, we were kind of juggling whether it's, you know, men's mental health, or whether it's just mental health in general. And to your point, Charlotte, around, you know, why do we think men's mental health is more important? I kind of, just playing devil's advocate, I was like, well, you know, why shouldn't we talk about just general mental health? And then when I actually sat back and thought about it, it's like men and women kind of address mental health very differently, right? In my experience, and you know, generalizing, but I feel like for a lot of women, particularly in past decades, it was a lot more okay to kind of talk quite openly about it. Whereas men, if you're lucky enough to have a kind of confidant, or you know, a small close circle, you can then, it's one of the few kind of avenues you can actually talk about it. And even then, it's like, you know, you have to be in the right mood and the right time to actually do it.
But what's the reason? You think it's culturally, biologically, and then just like what's the reason?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe for myself, like, you know, I feel sometimes men are prone to keeping things inside and not really wanting to sort of talk openly about the things that they're going through. Maybe it's a factor of how they've been raised as a young boy. You know, maybe they're having certain emotions that have been suppressed through their upbringing, and they're maybe just not so used to sort of talking about emotions and challenges and things that make them feel uncomfortable, or, you know, maybe it's just maybe it's just an upbringing thing. I don't know.
Fear of looking weak.
I think so, kid. I think so,
Yeah.
and I think that's a very good one. I think it's maybe, as you know, growing up, you know, we're taught to, you know, be strong, you know, be the one who knows the answer, you know, be the one to lead, or to be really driven, you know, performance oriented, and I think, yeah, I mean, part of it's great, and you get a lot of things done. You achieve things very well, but there's probably another side where we're not sort of exploring ourselves, and, you know, not everyone has all the answers, and it's okay.
It's just sparked the thought, right? And Will, I know you've got kids, and I've got two boys, specifically, and just hearing that and thinking through it, I was like, oh, hang on, am I actually, or should I actually do something different when I talk to my boys, knowing the framing of what that could impact in their life, right? What's the gender mix of your kids?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I got 3 kids, so 2 boys, 8 and 6, and a young girl. She's 2.5.
Nice.
You
went back for the.
I went back for
That's statistically very, 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 very low chance of getting a third one being a girl. We were scared to do that.
That's actually really interesting about the education side of things.
Yeah.
Hey, especially like in the some of the stats, they did say that the mental health is the kind of this episode is actually quite early on as well. Again, my research only have from 18 to 20, but again, because I'm pretty sure a long time ago I thought there's a lot of research regarding to teenagers' mental health as well. That's one of the reasons why Instagrams and Facebook become such a controversy and TikTok become such a like a controversy for a period of time. So I'm actually interested around that is how I guess the two questions in my head when you're talking. Number one is when did that change? Because at the beginning you say it's extremely difficult for you guys talking about when did that change, and number two is actually how did you have like approach these kind of mental health with your family, like loved one, other kids, your wife, family? Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Okay, when did that change for you? Well, because it definitely sounds like the change for you.
For me, yeah, I can't pinpoint when it changed. I think I've always been a very maybe self-aware person of what's happening around me when I was quite young. Very sensitive. I'm quite a sensitive person, I'd say. So I was quite aware of how I felt about certain things. How it triggered me, for example. It could be things at work or school that triggered me that were against my values, but I didn't really know how to sort of react to it or what to do with those sort of emotions. So I can't really pinpoint when, but in terms of sort of how I sort of deal with it is, yeah, I mean, there's many ways, but for me, I like to write. I journal a fair bit, so I like to sort of write about how I feel in the moment at that point in time. And I mean, that emotion doesn't mean that it sort of is taking over my life at that point. It's just what I feel at that point in time. And the whole point of journaling, I feel, is just sort of validating your emotion at that point in time and how you're feeling. And it's okay to feel how you feel at that point in time, whether you might be unhappy or sad or even happy. It just depends.
Do you do daily journal?
Yeah, no, I don't do it daily. I just sort of do it every sort of 2 to 3 days. I have I said to you guys, I'm a digital nerd. I've got a little reminder on my task manager to do it. But
Nice.
yeah, you just sort of
Amazing.
jump. I don't do it on paper. I do it digitally as well on the keyboard. But I think it's just the act of writing. But yeah, I've got other sort of ways of sort of dealing with I guess my mental health, and love to share as we sort of go on. But love to hear from Keith as well.
Yeah, that journaling thing's underrated, to be honest. I wish I did it more, but I know there have been nights where I've been kept up by a particular thought, as an example. Maybe it's an idea I'm excited about, or something, and I just have to it's just churning in my head, and I just have to wake up, get on my phone. I know it's not a great practice to kind of go on the screen time late in the night, but it's just the act of just writing it down and knowing that it's in a safe place I can come back to, just lets me sleep. I have lost sleep and kind of circular thought patterns in the past. And I found that that's helped.
I do admit though, writing with a pen and a piece of paper is very different to tapping away your keyboard. There's something about that as well. So I do find myself, whilst mostly digitally recording my journals, paper and pen works pretty well too. So whatever works for you, I guess, at the end of the day, whatever feels natural for you.
That's true. Because for me, this is a very funny fun fact. The whole reason idea for this podcast for me is my kind of digital journal in a way, because I am really struggle before I kind of go to reaching to Kiet asking for doing a podcast. I had multiple attempts trying to do a personal blog. So, and I did probably 3 or 4 blogs per year kind of speed, which is really slow. But I have so much thought in my head, and I really wanted to consolidate and writing them down. But I realized I'm really struggle to writing in my notebook. Again, that's probably a little bit personal disclosure. Is I'm dyslexia, a little bit dyslexia. So writing words for me is actually really difficult, and recognizing pattern is really difficult. And then so writing for me is something that I enjoy the idea a lot. If I managing to do it, I finishing it, I really like it, but the whole process is killing me. And then I realized by having a friends to have a conversation, to express about your thought. At the moment, I'm doing with you guys in the podcast, but daily, I actually have a daily voice journal. So I literally using an app like a called Murmur. It's literally just a like voice journal. Every single day, I just choosing my emotion at the moment, and I just talking to it for a while, and then which I find it really helpful
cool.
as well. So
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't know you could do that.
well, like maybe that's a little bit rabbit hole because we haven't even answered the previous question about talking to family about it. But the rabbit hole around that, since we're talking about ChatGPT, is are you guys using ChatGPT for mental health kind of use cases? Like, would you recommend to use that?
I don't know if I'd recommend it. Not a health professional, but only say what I have found is because I've used it so much. I did try hey, given what you know about me, tell me about myself kind of thing, right? And then you have to kind of say, feel free to be frank and straightforward and be rude, whatever it is. And it was quite surprising kind of what it said about me, how, I'm a people pleaser essentially, and just kind of pointing out your character flaws, right? Which I thought was quite interesting.
The fact that you ask ChatGPT to define you instead of you define yourself, and then you basically looking for validation with AI.
Yeah, totally. And all the positive stuff it said about me, I'm like, yeah, that's totally me too. I'm owning it, right? But I did it specifically. I wanted to spot unconscious blindnesses more than anything.
Yeah, that's cool. It takes a bit of bravery to sort of type that thing into ChatGPT to make an assessment of yourself from an artificial intelligence point of view.
It's a safe space though, right? Until you tell everyone.
Oh, I don't know how safe that it is because I did the exercise. It's one of my girlfriends asked me to do this. Is ask ChatGPT to imagine, based on everything I search, what do I look like, and oh my god, that's one of the biggest mistakes. I literally look like a bald, middle-aged, like a man who literally like out of shape. Basically, it doesn't look like me at all. And I was just like, what have I been like a search that made them feel like I'm they didn't even get my gender right. So sometimes it's not necessarily a safe environment. Sometimes they can be pretty maybe in their perspective they say I really beautify putting filter on this character. Then like for me, it's just like
maybe according to
that's so cool.
Yeah, ChatGPT, you are a biases and all successful middle-aged billionaire.
The look of it is definitely not billionaire. But let's say the other thing. I do feel like ChatGPT have some bias about things. So yeah, but for mental health one, I actually didn't ask a lot. That's why I'm curious around what people is actually like. Have you guys ever put in any specific kind of struggle, emotion into it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, eh? Like I know AI in this moment is all the rage, isn't it? It's what's grabbing everyone's attention. I don't know. I feel a lot of the personal stuff is that's quite sacred. And look, for me personally, I'm not at the point where I'm comfortable with dealing with sharing very, very, very detailed things and trying to get, I guess, therapy based time with ChatGPT. I think there are other forms of therapy or mental health sort of tools that we can look at. But I did do an experiment with artificial intelligence actually as part of you might have heard of the term, but it's called an annual review, where you sort of look back on your past year and you sort of reflect on what you've done, what you haven't done. And I used Notebook LM, which is Google's version of AI, and I put some information in there, and it created a podcast.
But what's the source you put it in? What's the input you put it in?
Yeah, great question. It can be anything. It could be like text. It could be a PDF. It could be it could be a picture. And what happens is it generates a podcast where they talk about your achievements and so forth, or whatever you put in there. But I guess what I'm trying to get across is that you can use these mediums to sort of help you reflect upon what you've done in the past. And it's a different angle and a different light of seeing yourself, which then again is I guess another point of reflection, isn't it? So that's what I did. Another one which I did was very similar to you, Charlotte, and it was creating an image. But I asked ChatGPT to create an artistic image of some of the achievements both personally and career-wise, and it produced this really beautiful piece of art, very colourful, very bright, vibrant. Because I work in real estate, so there were some buildings in the background. There was a picture, funnily enough, of an air conditioning, an air condition on a building, because I worked on an air conditioning upgrade project at work, which I thought was quite funny. But then it also had more softer things like green trees, flowers, which I think symbolized my sort of personal growth through the year. So it was pretty cool. I'd love to share it with you guys after the show. But
cool.
You can use it.
As long as you don't ask me to exchange about mine, we will be fine. I would love to see that. So 100%.
Yeah. So I guess I mean my view is is it okay or is it recommended to use AI as a form of therapy? I'm not so sure. I'm a bit. I guess if you see a professional therapist or counsellor, there is that time invested where they get to know you and they get to understand who you are, and maybe with AI, if you're not sharing a lot of personal details about yourself, it's probably going to create a bias about you, and I don't know if that's a safe sort of thing. I'm not sure. As opposed to human interaction, where you and I are getting to know each other right now, aren't we? So, and we learn about each other as we talk. I'm not sure. I'm a bit.
AI probably is also learning a lot about us at the same time. Every question we ask, but I totally understand what you're talking about, because I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like I don't really know what they play back to me, is that sincere, or is it based on the overall data, the research? Is that specific to me, or is it based on some of the bias they have around? And I don't like to be stereotyped to be a particular type of person, and I find it's very hard to validate that with the AI when they're trying to use the big data to correct your behavior, I guess.
Yeah, and Charlotte, you said that the mental health industry or market is like a $90 billion market, and I can bet you that there's probably...
That's only men mental health.
That's
only men mental health. If you're female, that's like even much bigger.
And I was just thinking maybe there's probably already an AI out there that can be your therapist or your counselor.
100%. If in a lot of the podcasts, like other podcasts, they're already advertising the better health and a few other digital version of that. They already do that. Because I do heard this is not a statistic, but this is something that when I speaking to, like, I guess the other generation, one thing I do realize that Gen Z, like next generations, essentially, they are much like aware about the mental health. They actually feel much comfortable to talking about mental health than our generation. I see we are a little bit better than our parents, because if you're talking about mental health, I don't know, I tried this with my dad and my mom. They were literally trying to send me away and then basically thinking there's something wrong with me. So they're really uncomfortable with this topic. They don't even like to bring up. So we getting a little bit better compared to them. We can at least talking about it. Still a little bit vulnerable to go to the next level. But the next generation is very comfortable talking about it. And then the other things, the next generation have the behavior changes. They actually using a lot of subscription based kind of a tools, like a therapy tools, for them to have someone to have regular conversation about their mental health. So a lot of those applications, they are actually designed for have a regular check-in conversation, like AI tools or digital tools designed for a regular conversation checking with the younger generations around their mental health, and they're very comfortable talking about it. Like they're talking about in the workplace. I don't know if you guys experience this. The first time when someone in the younger generation in the workplace sometimes mentioned about mental health in public, I literally was a big shock. I was like, oh, this is great. They were talking about it. And then I hope I have equipped the same kind of capability. When I'm struggling, I feel comfortable to talk about that as well.
I did notice during COVID, I always thought that there was a really weird phenomenon that younger people, I won't say which generation, but just people younger than me, did, which was very interesting. In they would join a video call just to hang out. So there'd be two people, friends, jumping on a video call, and they would just do their homework or do their own thing, not talking to each other.
There's a whole business around this. It's called Focus
Yeah.
Mate. And then there's a whole business around that. It's not only COVID time. I think the business started actually before COVID time. It's just people who has issue with focus, like literally just will actually booking the session without doing anything with someone you don't know in the other world. And they're just coming in to say, hey, I wanted to practice my violins for the next 1 hour. And I said, oh yeah, I'm going to write a book, focusing reading book in the next 1 hour. Nice to meet you. And then they just literally mute themselves and doing that and feel a company with each other.
One, I found it fascinating, and two, I didn't appreciate it until it definitely was pre-COVID, but during COVID, a lot of my younger colleagues would, we're working on a project together. They would just kind of say, hey, create a hangout if anyone wants to jump in. Sometimes we're even working on different projects, but it's just the state of, we were forced to not talk to it, like be in the same space as each other, but just being in the same hangout room kind of gave you that sense of connection, which I was like, oh, these kids know a lot more than I do in terms of relating to each other.
Yeah. It's a great thing though. It's a good trend that we're seeing that change in the generations, aren't we? We're seeing a very young, very fast-paced, incredibly intelligent, I feel, Gen Z generation. And it's great to hear that they know and they're very aware of their mental health.
All right, I do have a questions that we kind of touched a little bit, but we didn't really go deep around it. So I'm going to come back to that. We talk a lot about our recognizing our own mental health, supporting ourselves, but how do we support others? So have you ever seen any of your colleagues, friends, or loved ones, family that are struggling? How do you recognize that, and then what did you do?
I have a small community of male friends, very close friends. We catch up quite regularly, I'd say, at least every quarter, and it's a safe space where we can talk about whatever. We can talk about work. We can talk about our personal lives, our relationships, kids, and it's a way that we can, I guess, routinely catch up and see if we're going okay. And there might be challenges that one person may have, and really we're just listening. I feel, or at least for me anyway. We're not certainly, we're all there to help and listen and possibly advise where we think, but often, the person with a problem will, be quite vulnerable and say, hey, this is a challenge that I'm going through. And often I feel that it's not, hearing the possible answer. It's just really just talking about the challenge and being heard and being validated and in all the emotions that they're going through. So I think, if there's a way that you can, be part of some sort of community like that, it doesn't need to be like 5 people like us. It could be a close friend that you have or 3 or whoever, and you have that regular catch up to talk about things. And having that community is so helpful for our mental health, I feel. So we do that pretty regularly, and I've probably got about another sort of smaller community of friends, and we all know we're all going through very similar things. So we, some of us are going through parenthood and all the challenges of that, and trying to balance parenthood with being, someone who has to work full time, or we're balancing a lot of things, aren't we? And finding that outlet is really important. Find a community.
So, and that, I assume that community also helping you to actually have better understanding about what other people experiencing when you try to helping them is also a way to helping you as well.
Yeah. I think it's particularly for people who in the product management profession, it's quite an important thing, because in the intro I did mention product management is a very isolating kind of profession, right? Because you tend to be in a position where you have to lead a team, and you've got certain pressures, and depending on your situation, you may or may not have others within your organization who kind of play a similar role as you. You know, if you're a startup founder, sometimes you're just like, some days it feels like you're in a basement, kind of just working through things, and you're not even talking to people. Or if you don't have if you're working in an organization where you're competing against other product managers, it might feel like there's not that safe space, right? And so creating that outside of work is probably quite important as well.
Well, Product House is kind of a community for any like a product manager who want to connect. But I guess I probably wanted to say this is definitely something not only specific for product manager, because I actually don't think product manager, the work by itself as by nature is isolate a lonely work, because it does have a lot of stakeholders and teams. However, I think the reason why product managers generally have a because compared to the other community that I guess here you and me come from, like agile or kind of design thinking, other product manager, when I join this community, I do feel like it's a little bit, people are a little bit less to open up and share compared to the other community. But the reason why I think about that is because this, as you say, this role is a very high pressure role, because you have a lot of you need to put down a lot of fire, and generally some of this fire may relate to other people's emotion, team dynamic, and mental health as well. And then you generally feel like you need to toughen up to be able to provide other people a sense of kindness and I guess you don't want to be panicking or breaking down for other people, because you always need to be there for other people. That's the reason why I feel like product manager is a role people generally show a little bit. So I do have it's kind of like a closing question for you guys around that, because for me, a lot of these is around, it's actually vulnerability as well. So do you guys have any tips around how can we make ourselves more open and vulnerable to talking about our, I guess, mental health and asking for the right help in time?
You need practice. Practice makes perfect, right? And I learned this through work and refined it through parenting, right? Which is establishing the permission to code. It's quite a critical point in your relationship with dealing with people you're trying to affect a behavioral change with. And often if I find my kids are kind of troubled or something, first thing I'd do is I'd sit them down and kind of share with them a story about how, if I suspect, maybe it was a bully or whatever, I'd share with them a story about how something similar would have happened to me in the past, and by making that example, hopefully allowing them to open up. But also at the same time, I would try to offer them a couple of options. Hey, I noticed you're a bit grumpy at the moment, or if I'm talking to my kids, or something a bit more subtle if I'm talking to a colleague. Give them the options, right? Would you like to be left alone? Do you need a sounding board, or would you like to hear how others have coped in the past, right? And kind of give them the space to kind of let you know where they're at, and it's kind of meeting them where they're at, right? So
it's also helping you by teaching, coaching your kids and other people, also helping you to open up, talking about some of your mental health as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think it's being, I think at the end of the day, it's being quite open with how you're feeling, and I guess being directly open with others invites them to be open with you. They might feel similar emotions, and they might feel similar stresses. So being quite vulnerable yourself opens up vulnerability from other people. And from there, you might have a beautiful conversation, and you might feel better after it. So, and I guess, I mean, being vulnerable and I guess having a lot of, we talk about mindfulness, what is mindfulness? I guess it's, we're able to sort of recognize how we feel in this present moment, isn't it? Whether it's we're content, whether it's we're a bit sad, or whether we're really, really excited. But it's just recognizing that
Emotion.
and trying not to, I guess, run away from it, which I feel, it's quite easy to run away when you feel uncomfortable. But if you can sort of embrace it, just for that moment, even if it's just a couple of seconds, the next time it happens, it might not feel as hard. That's in my experience anyway. So
really resonate.
if that's just one takeaway.
Really resonate because I think especially at the moment dealing with emotion is hard. That's why quick games and the social media is so popular. The moment when people experience a negative experience, the quick things to do, distractions, that's take me out of it. So
Distraction.
I really like that advice. Be vulnerable yourself. To invite, so you leave a space to invite other people to be vulnerable with you. So you're creating a mutual safe space there. And then the other thing is be present, be mindful about everything that you do. And then that will get you a bit closer, I guess, to your feeling and everything around you as well. That's really helpful.
You're entitled to feel stressed at work because you've got a million deadlines and you've got your boss on you, or you've got, things. You're entitled to feel like that.
That's not intuitive for a lot of people, to be honest. That's actually what I said. To be honest, I don't even know if this is a tip. This is actually my takeaway around all of these. It's actually really, really not easy to articulate and identify and articulate our emotion even to your loved one. Because I don't know how good you are doing that. And then I do find that there's a long period of time I'm even resistant to see a professional. I feel very, very uncomfortable to articulate about my emotion and sharing a specific emotion to other people regarding my colleagues, my loved one, even therapy. So that's the reason why one thing that Will said before, I found it personal. Again, it's something I'm really aspiring or wanting to do a bit more is the journaling things. Because I think the important thing is I wanted to have ability to have a understanding my emotion more, and I feel like once you will be able to clearly articulate to yourself about how you truly feel, what truly happened, and then at some point when you be able to accept this imperfect version of you, that will be a first step to actually
my playback of that is it's about educating yourself about mental health and just being curious about it, right? I related to the fact that it's as I'm getting older, I'm getting better at coping at it. Actually, I could have been better at it in my 20s if I had the emotional awareness and was smart enough to actually think about it and know it, right? So it's a shame that it took me so many years to actually be in touch with my emotional kind of side.
Yeah, well, I think. Oh, that's a great point. I think with time, things unfold, and sometimes you just need that time. So it's always, I feel the same as well. I wish I was like this 20 years ago and had.
Accepting the full self. Everything's a journey. Accept the best.
That's exactly right.
Version of yourself. Yeah, this is a
great.
Yeah, that was great, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.